Our friend Marcia was kind enough yesterday to send me a link to the modern science take on the senses and how it's sort of convenient and colloquial how we've derived them down to five primary senses, but um, looks like science says that there's 23 of them, and interoception, proprioception, etc. They're these um, equally important senses that are not usually considered at the top, but they are. We could argue that there's an infinite number of senses that push out and feel the world and report back to us and give us information on where we stand and what our position is in the world. Um, the great yoga sage Yogananda, one of my very, very favorites. If you ever have a chance, and you do, read the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. It's one of the two or three great spiritual masterpieces of the 20th century, beyond any shadow of a doubt. As one commentator uh, declared, there's a miracle on every page. George Harrison, when he lived in the United States, when he moved to New York, he bought a big farmhouse mansion in New York, and he would have his friends come over, and when they would come over, they would all get a gift of Autobiography of a Yogi. Steve Jobs did the same thing. He would hand out copies of Autobiography of a Yogi. So it's quite a diverse group of people. Anyway, the reason I bring up Paramahansa Yogananda is he tells a story of our five primary senses. And in this story, our five senses are five very powerful horses that are yoked into a stagecoach. One of those Wells Fargo ones, one of those ones that movies were made in the 40s and 50s, and there'd be some sort of adventure going on. But in this story, those five powerful horses are leading a stagecoach and they are running at full speed. You've seen those movies, right? It's terrifying, the power of those horses going at full speed, pulling a stagecoach. And so in our movie, the horses are running at full speed. The camera is panning back, and it pans back from the front of the horses, mid horse, back of the horse, the carriage itself, and then it shows the driver of the stagecoach, and he's asleep. That's the story of Paramahansa Yogananda. The driver is asleep, and the five horses are racing at full speed. Where are they going? Are they heading toward a cliff? Are they heading toward a ravine? Are there rocks in the way? Are the various horses at odds with one another? Are they headed toward destruction? Well, the driver of the stagecoach is asleep at the wheel. And Yogananda makes the claim that the vast majority of humans are asleep at the wheel with respect to the drive and the impulse and the mania of their senses. And this is the great benefit, blessing, miracle of meditation, is that we enter into the closet once a day and we shut the door and we go in and we begin to rein in our senses and bring them back to their origin point. And as we rein in the senses, as we temper them, as we analyze them, as we find ourselves capable of redirecting them, our senses, instead of taking us on a hysterical ride going nowhere, a tremendous amount of energy but not going anywhere, a life filled with sound and fury, signifying nothing, says Shakespeare. But instead of our senses driving us on a maniacal, hysterical journey going nowhere, our senses then become our own channels out into the world. And we can aim them at the things that are most beautiful, most valuable, most meaningful, most purposeful, most dynamic, most significant to us. And until this reining in of the senses is done, and it's done at depth through sufficient meditation and introspection and self-analysis, then those five horses are racing and we're asleep at the wheel. Now, am I accusing you guys of being asleep at the wheel? No, I can only accuse myself. And having had my senses race into the world in a variety of ways, and having been asleep at the wheel to some degree, we can all just wake up a little more and rein those senses in. This is not to disconnect ourselves from the beauties of our senses. It's to allow the senses to be at our disposal, tools that we use to beautify and impassion the world, rather than to be at the effect of or slaves of at the worst possible level. Anyway, think about your five horses and where they're racing, and we'll chat about it tomorrow.